How is it going, guys? Today we are testing the theory that you get what you paid for. People say it all the time. I'm guilty of saying it myself, but does it apply to absolutely everything? Well, we're gonna try and figure out if it applies to suspension, specifically coilovers. When most people shop for coilovers, not everybody, you're usually looking for something that's over $1,000, maybe in the $1,500 to $2,500 range is a good starting point, and you kind of just brush off those options that are under $1,000. But what about those people that aren't on a ballin' budget to build their car? That used to be me. There was no way back then I was gonna be able to afford a $1,500 set of coilovers, let alone $2,500. But luckily, there were inexpensive options to choose from. Today, I didn't go out and try and find the cheapest set available. I think you can get a new set of coilovers for $500 or $600 on eBay or something that are probably complete trash. Didn't want to stoop down to that level, but we did find a set of coilovers for about $800. So these are the Factionfab F-Spec coilovers. These are their entry-level coilovers. I actually run their track-dedicated coilovers on my FRS that have been on there for about 2 seasons now without skipping a beat. So I figured while we wait for the suspension that's eventually gonna end up on this car, we test out the F-Specs so I can give you guys kind of a comparison and figure out whether or not it's worth it for you to spend a couple $1,000s versus a couple $100 on a set of coilovers. They've got pretty much all of the essentials. You've got the height adjustment that's separate from your preload. You've got 32-way damping adjustment so you can stiffen or soften the dampers up depending on your preference. They come with 7K springs front and rear, so they're not gonna be overly stiff. Now, the one thing that I do wish they came with was camber plates. Instead, they come with these rubber isolated top hats. Not a huge deal, it's gonna work for our case, but if you're looking to run a significant amount of camber, these obviously aren't going to do it. But in our case, these should get the job done. I'm not gonna bore you guys with a full step-by-step install video. I've already made one of those. It's the same as the FRS. If you need install instructions, I'll link that video up above. I will quickly walk through things just to give you an idea. Obviously, we need to get the brake line and ABS line out of the way. On the bottom, there's 2 19mm bolts holding it in place, and then the end link is a 17mm nut. And then we go up top, and there's 3 12mm nuts, and once all those are removed, we can pull the strut out. If you're doing this yourself, don't unscrew all of the top hat nuts, just leave one loosely on there, and then you can reach into the wheel well to support the strut, and then undo that last nut. And then you can safely pull the strut out without damaging anything. I've got the preload set on all of these, and the ride height is even side to side, but chances are we're probably gonna have to adjust this once it's on the car because I went relatively conservative, but we shall see. Come on, baby, get in the hole. Let's get this big old thing back in place. There we go. Since we don't have camber plates up top, we're gonna run with some camber bolts instead. There we go. We're gonna max out the camber to try and make sure that we don't run into any rubbing issues. We're eventually gonna throw some aggressive wheels on here, so hopefully they fit. We'll get this end link reinstalled and then tighten the nuts up top, and then we can move to the rear. For the rear on the bottom, there's 3 bolts that we'll need to remove. The one for the strut, which is a 17, the one for the end link, which I've already removed, that's 14, and then the lower control arm to the subframe is another 17. You can also do the one to the knuckle, but I find that it's easier to do this one. So get those removed, we'll drop the lower control arm and then go up top. All right, I've got everything out of the way in the trunk. There's gonna be 2 14mm nuts. This is the bracket to my strut tower bar. Now we should be able to pull the rear strut out of the lower control arm and out the wheel well. I'm gonna try and stick this up in here and then God damn it. I'm gonna try and stick this up in here and then reach around the top and put the nut on by myself. We'll see how this turns out. Oh God. Fuck. Oh, I got it. Fucker. Okay. That was tough. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Thanks for all your help. Let's get this lower control arm back into place. Come on. Now you can see there's a little bit of a height difference between the strut and the lower control arm. So what I'm gonna do is put a stand underneath, and we'll kind of jack this up until the holes align. We'll get all these tightened up and torqued to spec, and then we should be good to go. I'll leave all the torque specs down in the description just in case. Got all the coilovers installed. I also threw on a set of 25mm spacers just to bring the stock wheels out and make them look a little bit better. We're gonna toss the wheels back on here, lower it down, and check where we're at with the ride height. Now that I think about it, I should have just done 3 lug nuts because I'm probably gonna have to take these off. Oh well. All right, let's see how we did. Honestly, we didn't start off as bad as I thought we were going to. Doesn't look too shabby. Let's check the front here. We've got about a 3-finger gap in the front, so could definitely use some lowering there. And then in the back, it's about just 2 fingers there. Could probably lower this a little bit more too, but not very much. We're gonna get this back up in the air, make some adjustments, and then we'll go from there. Here's a pro tip for you. You may notice that some of these spanner wrenches that come with coilover kits have holes in them. And you may think that these are conveniently placed there so that you can hang them up and put them away, which may be the case for some, like the BC Racing one I have here, but some have a square hole in them that serves a very specific purpose, and that is to fit a ratchet in them and allow you to tighten those locking collars to make sure they don't slip and very easily loosen them without busting your knuckles up. Did you know that? We're working on lowering the front. What you want to do is measure the distance between these 2 locking collars here with a caliper. We're going to lower this a certain amount and then slap the wheels on and check and go from there. This is the most time-consuming part of the job because you may have to do this multiple times. But you want to make sure you get the ride height set where you want it, because once you get in alignment, if you mess with that ride height, that's going to throw your alignment off. So like I said, I'm going to use a ratchet on the end of the spanner wrench to loosen this locking collar here. Super easy. And then we can start lowering this thing. Got that where I want it, so we'll just tighten it down. And we'll toss the wheels on. We've got the wheels back on. The front is looking a whole lot better. Let's test it out again. Got 2-finger gap there. In the back though, I think I went a little bit too low. Can't put 2 fingers in there, so just under 2 fingers there. Like I said, this is the most time-consuming part of the job, so we're gonna need to raise the car back up, get the wheel off the rear and raise it up a little bit, and then bring it back down and test, and I'll show you guys what it looks like with the base wheels, with these spacers. And we'll throw the premium wheels on there as well, just to give you guys an idea. And I mean, just lowering it looks a ton better. Look at this. Look at that wheel gap. So much better. Since we messed with the suspension, our alignment is obviously off. I can tell in the rear that it's towed in and the front is towed out. So what we're gonna do is do a quick eyeball alignment, throw some toe plates on here and make sure it's as close as we can get so it doesn't completely tear up the tires when we go out for a drive and see how it feels on the street. Right now, I have the damper set right in the middle, so 16 clicks away from full soft and full hard, usually a good place to start. And first impressions, these actually don't feel all that bad. From the factory, the suspension on these come tuned with that stiffer, sporty feeling, and you can definitely still feel the imperfections and bumps in the road, but they're not jolting. And I wouldn't say that this significantly improves the ride quality, but if you gave this to an average driver, I don't think most people would be able to tell the difference right off the bat. But let's take this on the interstate and see how it does at speed. So I'm on a smooth part of the road, but I've got some bumpy sections coming up here, so we can see how it does. Okay. So on road surfaces that aren't quite smooth and a little bit bumpy, I do notice that it does feel a little bit bouncy. Might be able to tune some of that out with some damping adjustment, but I do notice it. But once we get back onto a road that isn't as bumpy, it rides really well. Honestly, for $800, I'm impressed. I think they feel a whole lot better than if you went with the cheapest option. Like I said, it isn't gonna improve the ride quality a bunch, but it also doesn't feel like you threw a cheap set of coilovers on here. Now, I'm not gonna comment on the performance aspect of these because I don't think if you are looking to get the most performance out of your car, you should go with a set of these. But I am curious how these would do at an autocross or a track day once or twice a year. I don't think they'd be as bad as some people think. For a beginner to go out there on these, I think it'd actually be quite enjoyable. I'm gonna try and find a exit that we can take at speed. Here we go. That actually does not feel all that bad at all. The weight transfer feels good. There's not a huge amount of body roll. Like I said, it feels very similar to stock, maybe even a tiny bit less body roll. For $800, if you have your expectations set on an inexpensive set of coilovers that you just want to lower your car with, I think these might exceed your expectations. I really do. I don't think these are a bad option at all if you're on a budget and are looking for a set of coilovers to lower your car with, but you don't want to go the complete cheap route. I'm impressed. After driving around a bit, I think the rear has settled a bit more than the front, so I'm gonna need to lower the front just to even things out. But the most important question, are these $800 coilovers worth it? I wish I had a clear-cut answer for you, but I don't. For some people, I think it is worth it, but a lot of people are gonna say it's not. So let me break it down. For those of you who are tracking your car or autocrossing your car a lot, or you want the best ride quality, these aren't gonna be for you. But if you're on a budget and you're mainly concerned with lowering your car and you don't really mind a little bit rougher of a ride, I think these are worth it. Now, there's gonna be people that say, Kevin, why don't you just suggest to these people to save a couple more $100 to buy better coilovers? And while that's good advice, and the saying still goes, buy nice or buy twice, we still have to keep in mind that there are a lot of people out there that are on a tight budget, and if they spend all their money on a set of coilovers, they can't get anything else. With these being under $1,000, they still got money left over for things like wheels and intake and exhaust and all that other stuff that's quintessential to the build process. And I don't want to gatekeep them from the joy that I get from modifying cars just because they can't afford the nicest parts. It reminds me of when I had my 03 WRX wagon, and that's what I started out with, and I seeked out the same advice from Yo. I actually honestly contemplated buying a set of Raceland coilovers, and he slapped the shit. No, I'm just kidding, he didn't do that. But he pointed me in the right direction, and I ended up with a set of ST suspension coilovers that were under $1,000 for the time, and I still had money for wheels, downpipe, catback exhaust, and I was able to go through that build process, which brought me to where I am today. So I'm thankful that there's companies out there that still make inexpensive options. I don't think that Factionfab went out there and cut all the corners to make the cheapest product. I still think the build quality is there. The ride quality honestly isn't all that bad. It's, yes, a little bit bouncier than the stock suspension on roads that aren't smooth, but I think I could tune some of that out if I mess with the damping. You still get the height adjustment, the damping adjustment, and all for under $1,000. Really can't complain all that much. Now, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. If you have experience with cheap, inexpensive coilovers, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.